What's going on, guys? It's your boy Michigander Man, and today I am in Detroit, Michigan at West Lawn Cemetery, and today we are here to visit the final resting place of the one and the only Jackiewilson. Let's do this, guys. Let's go on an adventure.
You want to talk about how long you've been in the business, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
It doesn't matter. You go right ahead.
How
Well,
long?
actually, since 1957, that's when I first started. I started with a young man that owns a small recording company. I think it's Motown, Barry Gordy Jr. We both started about the same time.
And I just found out today that you're related to Levi, the four-octave.
Correct. That's my cousin.
He said you gave him his first bicycle.
Correct.
Jackie, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes take place since you've been in the business. Have you had to adjust yourself, or do you just kind of
Well,
do
actually,
your own thing?
well, I've been trying.
You've been trying.
It's kind of hard, but you have to, really get into it if you can.
Okay, now from the beginning to
Jack
right now.
Leroy Wilson Jr. was born on June 9th, 1934 in Highland Park, Michigan, as the third and only surviving child of singer-songwriter Jack Leroy Wilson Sr. and Eliza May Wilson. Eliza May was born on the Billups Whitfield Place in Lodies County, Mississippi. Eliza May's parents were Tom and Virginia Ransom. Wilson often visited his family in Columbus and was greatly influenced by the choir at Billups Chapel. Growing up in the suburban Detroit enclave of Highland Park, Wilson joined a gang called the Shakers and often got himself in trouble. Wilson's alcoholic father was frequently absent and usually unemployed. In 1943, his parents separated shortly after Jackie's 9th birthday. Jackiewilson began singing as a youth, accompanying his mother, and experienced church choir singer. In his early teens, he joined a quartet, the Ever-Ready Gospel Singers, who gained popularity in local churches. Wilson was not very religious, but he enjoyed singing in public. The money the quartet earned from performing was often spent on alcohol, and Wilson began drinking at an early age. Jackie dropped out of high school at age 15, having been sentenced to detention in the Lansing Correction Systems for juveniles twice. During his second stint in detention, Wilson learned to box and began competing in the Detroit amateur circuit at the age of 16. Wilson's record in the Golden Gloves was 2nd and 8. After his mother forced Jackie to quit boxing, Jackie was forced to marry Rita Hood by her father after getting her pregnant, and he became a father at the age of 17. He began working at Lee's Sensation Club as a solo singer, then formed a group called the Falcons that included his cousin Levi Stubbs, who later led the Four Tops. Two other Wilson's cousins, Hubert Johnson and Levi's brother Joe, later became members of the Contours. The other Falcons joined Hank Ballard as part of the Midnighters, including Alonzo Tucker and Billy Davis, who worked with Wilson several years later as a solo artist. Tucker and Wilson collaborated as songwriters on a few songs Wilson recorded, including his 1963 hit Baby Workout. After Wilson recorded his first version of Danny Boy and few other tracks on Dizzy Gillespie's record label, DD Records, under the name Sonny Wilson. His nickname, Wilson, eventually was hired by Billy Ward in 1953 to join a group Ward formed in 1950 called the Dominoes. He was the lead singer of the Dominoes for 3 years. In 1957, Jackie began a solo career. He left the Dominoes, collaborated with his cousin Levi, and secured performances at Detroit's Flame Show Bar. Later, Al Green secured a deal with Decca Records, and Wilson was signed to his subsidiary label, Brunswick. His first single was released, Reet Petite, which became a modest R&B success. It was written by future Motown Records founder Berry Gordy Jr. His signature song, Lonely Teardrops, was also written by Berry Gordy Jr. Lonely Teardrops sold over 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA. Due to Wilson's fever when performing with his dynamic dancer moves, impassioned singing, and impeccable dress, he was soon christened Mr. Excitement, a title Wilson kept for the remainder of his career. He was an inspiration to many, including James Brown, Teddy Pendergrass, Michael Jackson, and even the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. Wilson was sometimes called the Black Elvis. Reportedly, when asked about this, Presley said, "I guess that makes me the white Jackiewilson." Wilson also said he was influenced by Presley, saying, "A lot of people have accused Elvis of stealing the black man's music, when in fact almost every black solo entertainer copied his stage mannerisms from Elvis." Jackiewilson was a regular on TV, making regular appearances on such shows as The Ed Sullivan Show, American Bandstand, and others. According to Larry Geller, who visited Wilson backstage in Las Vegas with Elvis Presley, the singer had a habit of taking a handful of salt tablets and drinking large amounts of water before each performance to create profuse sweating. Wilson told Elvis Presley, "The chicks just love it." On September 29, 1975, Wilson was one of the featured acts in Dick Clark's Good Old Rock and Roll review hosted by the Latin Casino in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. He was in the middle of singing Lonely Teardrops when he suffered a massive heart attack. On the words, "My heart is crying," he collapsed on stage. Audience members applauded as they initially thought it was part of the act. Clark sensed something was wrong, then ordered the musicians to stop the music. Cornell Gunter and the coasters, who was backstage, noticed Wilson was not breathing. Gunter was able to resuscitate him, and Wilson was then rushed to a nearby hospital. Medical personnel worked to stabilize Wilson's vital signs, but the lack of oxygen to his brain caused him to slip into a coma. He briefly recovered in early 1976 and was even able to make a few wobbly steps, but slipped back into a semi-comatose state. Wilson's friend, fellow singer Bobby Womack, planned a benefit at Hollywood's Palladium to raise funds for Wilson on March 4th. Wilson was deemed conscious but incapacitated in early June 1976. Unable to speak but aware of his surroundings, Wilson was a resident of the Medford Lee's Retirement Center in Medford, New Jersey, when he was admitted into Memorial Hospital of Burlington County in Mount Holly, New Jersey, due to have trouble taking nourishment. According to Wilson's attorney, Wilson's friend Joyce McRae tried to become his caregiver while he was in a nursing home, but he was placed in the guardianship of his estranged wife, Harlene Harris, and her lawyer, John Merklin, in 1978. Wilson died on January 21st, 1984, at the age of 49 from complications of pneumonia. He was initially buried in an unmarked grave at West Lawn Cemetery near Detroit. In 1987, fans raised money in a fundraiser by an Orlando disc jockey to purchase a mausoleum. On June 9th, 1987, his 53rd birthday, a ceremony was held, and Wilson was interred in the mausoleum at West Lawn Cemetery in Wayne, Michigan.